If it's Monday night, oh yes, it is Ridiculously Raw. Hello, friends. Anthony Florio here with you for another edition of Ridiculously Raw. Glad to have you with us. And I'll tell you what, um, mixed bag go home show tonight. I mean, it was another so edition of Monday Night Raw. I'm going to be real honest with you. However, we did have a segment on this show that literally saved this show. Let me tell you that right now. So there will be another round of cutouts, of course. And that's really all there is to say about it. So I'm joined by my partner in crime on the Raw chat, the one and only Phenom, Michael Bullock. Of course, as you know, the First Lady of the Wrestling Forum, the Twisted Angel, Didi Woodson, not joining us tonight. She's been busy on Mondays with her work commitments. And unfortunately, same can be said for good old MF, Michael Fletcher, the Cerebral Viper, the host of the Cerebral Smack Talk. He will not be joining us tonight as well because he has work commitments beyond his control. However, he will be back tomorrow night to host the Cerebral Smack Talk as usual. So just wanted to let you folks know about that. Bear with me. I'm playing a little hurt tonight. Got a little cold, but I'm gonna get through this as best as I can. So bear with me if I sound a little strange or a little different, like I usually do. So, all right, you know what we're gonna do here. We're gonna review Monday Night Raw, the go home show for Hell in a Cell, and of course, we're also gonna have my Tony's take on the last edition of Impact Wrestling, and that's really all there is to say about it. So, with that being said, let's dive right on in. And we started it off with an in-ring segment. It was Chris Jericho. Chris Jericho comes down, and he says he has bad news for the fans. He says that the Triple Threat main event is not going to take place because somebody stole my list of Jericho, and then from there, he would be interrupted by the Universal Champion Kevin Owens. They do their little shtick, and then they would get interrupted by Raw Commissioner Stephanie McMahon, who looked amazing tonight, if I'm going to be real honest with you. And then from there, they were then interrupted by Seth Rollins, and it was Seth Rollins who actually stole the list. And then that was pretty much it. So I'll say it like this. Second best segment of the night here. Jericho was great here, having a panic attack over the list. But sadly, Owens and Rollins were still the weaker elements of the story. I don't buy Rollins as this anti-establishment babyface yet. And Owens has suffered as a result of being somewhat outshined by the charismatic Jericho. But it was a fine segment. I mean, Jericho, doing that smarky heel stuff like he's been doing, and what else is there for me to say except let me just double check my liner notes here fast. Yeah, so that's pretty much all I can say about it. So second, it was really the second best segment of the night for me. So there's really nothing left for me to say here except I'm just going to give it to Michael Bullock. Phenom, let's get you in here. Your thoughts on this opening segment with all the parties involved.
All right. I thought. I thought it was a good segment as well. Like you said, Jericho being that snarky heel, looking for that list, and then Owens comes out, says everything's going to be all right, and then Stephanie tries to calm them down. Then Rollins comes out with the list and tries to play mind games with them. He's basically was trying to get in the head of both of his combatants, especially his opponent Kevin Owens for Hell in a Cell. So yeah, I like the segment. second best segment of the night. There was one segment that was better than this. And oh boy, we're going to have a whole hell of a lot of fun with this one. So we'll get there. We'll let you know what it is when we get there. So with that being said, Florio, let's just move on.
All right. Now, did we agree for this to be a cutoff here, the Enzo and Anderson fight? Did we say that was a cutoff, Bullock, or did we say we were going to get into that? I just want to be sure.
I think we said we were going to get into it.
Okay, I just wanted to be sure on that. It was.
I thought the match was fine for what it was. I mean, it was too short.
Yes. Let me just set the table for it. It was our first match of the night. It was Enzo Amore with Big Cass going up against Carl Anderson with Luke Gallows. It was announced that at Hell in a Cell, we're going to see Enzo and Cass go up against Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows in a tag team match. We don't know if that's going to be on the main show or if that's going to be the pre-show fight. I don't know. We'll see. But nonetheless, Enzo went up against Carl Anderson. Enzo Amore wins the match in 7 minutes and 32 seconds. So, all right, Bullock, now your thoughts on the match.
All right. I thought the match was fine for what it was, but I do agree it was too short for my liking. But I'm going to give this about maybe. I'm going to give it about 1 to 1.25 stars for the effort here. I mean, there was a little bit of all right action, but it really it just, like I said, it was just too short. So hopefully their tag team match at Hell in a Cell will be just a little bit better, if I'm going to be quite honest. So 1 to 1.25 stars is my rating. Florio, I give it to you.
I'm actually going to go a little higher. I'm going to give it between 1.5 and 2. I mean, fine match for what it was, like Bullock said. Let me just see what I have here. Okay. This feud needs a little more pro wrestling and a little less sports entertainment. The stakes don't feel very high, and while it's entertaining to watch, it doesn't feel very serious. This needs to get personal and a lot less cute before it can hope to get to the next level. So that's really all I can say on that. So 1.5 to 2. That's really the best I can give it, honestly. So so that's really all I can say. So but maybe I'll change my mind after. But that's all I can say for now. On to, well, they actually gave us the match tonight. Well, it was a non-title match anyway. Sheamus and Cesaro against the tag team champions New Day. And what's this? Sheamus and Cesaro actually win the bout in about 11, 12 minutes or something like that. I just got to double check the liner notes again before I get into anything. Yeah, it was about 11 minutes or so for that bout, and Sheamus and Cesaro actually won the match. So let me dive into this. 11 minutes and 55 seconds. Sheamus with a brogue kick on Big E, and that's it. I'm going to be real honest with you. This was the fight of the night for me. I'm going to give it between 3 to 3.25, maybe even 3.5. But I think 3 to 3.25 would probably be the best way to go. This was a very, very good match, and I enjoyed New Day versus Sheamus and Cesaro, but I can't say I enjoy either of their acts at this point. I might enjoy Cesaro and Sheamus more once they pick a direction as a team, but the odd couple arrangement of it hasn't really done much for me thus far. New Day is popular and entertaining as always, but I feel like they hit a point and just stopped growing as a team. Maybe some time away from the title will help them come up with some new material. I don't know. We'll see. But nonetheless, though, good match throughout, and it gives me hope going into that big tag team championship match coming up on Sunday night. But it gives us hope that New Day could actually retain, because New Day is closing in on history as the longest reigning tag team champions of all time. You already know the longest record is Demolition, 478 days as tag team champions from WrestleMania 4 up until that Saturday night's main event in July of '89, right here in our own backyard of Worcester, Massachusetts, at the Worcester Centrum when they lost it to the Brainbusters. Of course, they beat Strikeforce at WrestleMania 4, as everybody knows. So, and New Day has held the tag team title since last year's SummerSlam when they won that four-way match with the Luchas, the Usos, and the Primetime Players. So that's really all there is to say on that. So my tentative rating, 3 to 3.25, maybe higher. We'll see. But for right now, 3 to 3.25 stars. But I have no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It is the fight of the night, hands down. So, so Michael Bullock, what do you say? Do you agree with that assessment, or you disagree, or what?
Yeah, I agree. This is the fight of the night. I also am going to give it 3 to 3.25 stars. I mean, yeah, I mean the match. I mean it was really good. But yeah, I mean you just pretty much said everything about when it comes to the New Day and of course Sheamus and Cesaro with their interaction, basically continuing to, well, basically bickering with each other. So yeah, there's really nothing more to say. So 3 to 3.25 stars, fight of the night. So Florio, let's move on.
And we're going to move on. And what we're going to move on to is something that really rubbed us the wrong way. We thought we were going to get a return match, or a return wrestling match from last week with Dana Brooke and Bayley. But what happened here, rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, including myself and Michael Bullock. What happened was we thought we were going to get a match, but instead Dana Brooke, making up the rules as she goes along, decided that this was not going to be a standard wrestling match, but it was going to be an arm wrestling contest. Really? Really? An arm wrestling contest? Unbelievable.
This freaking sucks. Piece
of hot monkey garbage. That's what that was.
So WWE, I mean, you brought Bayley up to the main roster to finally, to give her a chance here, and this is what you've been giving her since she came up? No, I'm not a big fan of it. I am very pissed off about it as a member of the Hugger section. She deserves way better than this. I mean, look at what she went through. I mean, last year over at NXT, she and Sasha Banks had the fight of the night at NXT TakeOver Brooklyn. They stole the show again at NXT TakeOver Respect. I mean, where was that, Bayley? When were we going to see that on the main roster? Obviously, Vince McDinkleberg and Kevin Bucktooth Beaver Dunn don't know shit about how to make Bayley who she is. They're treating her like a piece of hot monkey garbage. So to you, Vince McDinkleberg and Kevin Bucktooth Beaver Dunn. Well, hold on. Well, this is how I feel about you. And shame on you for making Bayley look like an absolute joke. Done. Finished. Stay.
Well, a little liner note here. Why couldn't they just bring Emma back as she was and put Dana back with her at this point? That was working, and it would be much better than what they are trying to do with her now. She comes across as too comedic to be a serious heel. It would be much better as a pest, working with a much stronger character. They tried that with Charlotte, but the chemistry wasn't there, and it was never going to work long term. Emma could reconnect with her, and they could take off again. Bayley needs a stronger character to work off of to fit into her underdog role. So that's really all there is to say about it. So a piece of hot monkey garbage, to say the very least, if I'm going to describe that segment. I mean, SAWFT, you damn right it was. So we're not going to go any further into that. So next up, we had another match. Bo Dallas going up against Curtis Axel. They'll put some butts in the seats. All right. I do have I am going to be very, very critical about this show tonight. I do need to make a couple of changes here. The Enzo and Anderson. Well, I said 1.5 to 2. I'm actually gonna bump that up to a solid 2. Fight of the night, yes, it was Sheamus and Cesaro against the New Day. I said teetering on 3.5. I'm actually gonna pull the trigger and give that 3.5. That was the fight of the night. Now we move on to this. Bo Dallas against Curtis Axel. Curtis Axel cuts a halfway decent promo beforehand. I got to be real honest. He talked about his hometown roots. He talked about his family, most notably his grandfather, Larry the Axe Hennig, and of course his late father, Mr. Perfect Kurt Hennig, which got a pop from the crowd in Minneapolis. Of course, the show was at the Target Center in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And well, what else is there for me to say on that? I do have a couple of other liner notes I want to share real quick. As far as that opening segment goes, I love the list gimmick, but felt that they started with a bit too much comedy before getting to the real deal, and that was building Hell in a Cell. The list is fun, but got too much focus here, as the focus needed to be more on the cell and the title. Once it got into that, it was better. But while Rollins did well as things went on, he still feels as if he's missing something as the top face. This was an overall solid opening segment, but it did nothing to make me want to see their match at Hell in a Cell. As far as the Enzo and Cass goes, that was a solid 2 stars. Match was fine, but nothing special. Anderson does another job, which has become the norm. WWE has not given one reason to care about Anderson and Gallows, so I am sure that they win on Sunday, so WWE can pretend that they matter. As far as that fight of the night goes, I am not a fan of doing the pay-per-view match just days before the pay-per-view, but this was a very good match. They all worked well together. They kept a great pace throughout, and while Cesaro and Sheamus worked better together, they were not magically friends all of a sudden. There are still issues there between Cesaro and Sheamus, which works for what they are doing. I wish that Cesaro and Sheamus could have gotten the victory over another team, but I really enjoyed the match here as they worked to their strengths. And that segment, I was saying it was no good. That was no good. The arm wrestling gimmick rarely works in wrestling, and the crowd let them know that this was not working. They have no clue what to do with Bayley. The loss last week looked bad because Dana botched the finish, and they are killing time because Sasha wasn't out for as long as they thought she'd be. There was nothing entertaining here. This feud cannot end soon enough. They have completely cooled off Bayley, which is a sadly impressive accomplishment. Remember, they are protecting James Ellsworth better than Bayley. And then as far as this goes, Dallas and Axel. Dallas actually wins the match with a roll-up in 2 minutes and 59 seconds. While it's a no rating to a dud, I'm actually going to say it was pretty solid. Axel was fired up and showed some great aggression and actually had the hometown crowd into it. Dallas sneaks away with the win, and they will likely face off again soon because this is not done. But it is no rating to a dud. So that's really all there is to say about that. And then we had Golden Truth against the Shining Stars. Golden Truth wins the match with a double team finisher at 4 minutes and 4 seconds. The highest I saw anybody rate this out of all the reviews that I've read, somebody actually rated it 1.5, but it's another no rating to a dud. Let's be realistic. That wasn't very good, as it featured almost no heat, lackadaisical work, and Henry and Titus shenanigans leading to the finish. There was nothing good here outside of Goldust's effort as he continues to outwork everyone involved in this angle. I like Goldust. Truth is, well, okay. And the Shining Stars aren't bad, but they have done nothing here to make me care. It's filler, which started with a Raw pre-show angle last week. Yeah. You could say it's 1.5, some of you, but to me, and to Bullock, that was a no rating to a dud and another one of the worst fights of the night. Okay. Now we're going to have some fun here. contract signing, Mick Foley in the ring, and we have the contract signing, Sasha Banks and Charlotte. They signed the contract for Hell in a Cell. My. What else is there? What else is there to say? I mean, Bullock and I, you know, we talked about it, and while the Daniel Bryan retirement segment was, of course, the greatest segment in Raw history, that's not going to touch it. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the segment of the year for 2016. Mick Foley was, well, all three of them are great. I'm not going to kid you. All three of them are great. But Mick Foley was the star of that segment. The emotion that he showed. I mean, did you see the fire? Did you see the passion that he showed during this thing? Unbelievable. That was a 5-star segment. And I'll also say it like this. Greatest contract signing segment ever. Yes. Ever. This was a much better segment than I expected, largely thanks to the passion and sincerity of Mick Foley. I think Charlotte and Sasha held up their end as well, but you can tell they just don't have the ability to go to a different place when cutting promos. Sasha still has issues with mumbling, and Charlotte still has issues with speaking loudly for emotion. Mick managed to tie it all together in a way that it was better than the sum of its parts. Let me just say it like this. Some say, I know there was some that said the segment didn't come off all that well in terms of setting the stage and getting the ladies over for stepping into the match. There was emotion for sure. Foley discussing his issues was powerful. Charlotte was a great, arrogant heel, but I felt that there were issues. Foley should have been forced into making this a Hell in a Cell match. Instead, he booked it to make history. And then for weeks, he was completely nonchalant about things, constantly talking history, letting the ladies talk about history, and never discussing the dangers of the match. And now that the match was announced and we had time to marinate on it, then he gets his crisis of conscience in regards to the women fighting in the cell. The other issue is that by the end of this, the crowd was more into Foley's emotional tale of the cell destroying him, which really took away the focus from the ladies. There is a reason that many asked for a conflicted Foley hyping the dangers for weeks prior to finally relenting on the match. Instead, he made it. We got the history-making narrative, and then Foley gets super emotional, and it takes away from the final segment for the ladies. And while I do not want the ladies to be instantly afraid about the match, I also felt that their attitudes were a bit too carefree. Charlotte constantly smiling and wanting to cut off Foley, for example. There should have been some hesitation, leading to Charlotte mocking Sasha, then getting fired up, and then signing the contract out of hate. Go back and watch Triple H's reactions to the reveal of Cactus Jack, and then later the fact that they go to Hell in a Cell. The game, the cerebral assassin, is wetting himself. I don't care how arrogant a heel you are, you have to sell the stipulation. The overall tone and the way the story was told felt a little off to some. It's like they forgot what they had written and what Foley had announced, realized that he needed to get serious, and then threw it out there, which led to it all being more about him than the ladies involved in the actual match. I am sure that there will be a lot of opinions on this one. Yeah, certainly will be. But in our opinion, in the opinion of me, and in the opinion of Michael Bullock, it was the segment of the night, and it was also the segment of the year. The ladies were a little off, I'll be honest, but Mick Foley, man. Mick Foley, wow. We've seen him get angry, we've seen him get mad, we've seen him get emotional before, but I don't know if we have ever seen Mick Foley get as emotional as he did during this. That was freaking awesome. Some may have not, you can't please everybody, some may not have liked it, but me and Bullock, during our Raw chat tonight, boy, we absolutely, positively love every second of this segment. Well done. And this saved this show from being, while it was not the best show, and my rating my rating is very down tonight. I gave it a very low rating, but this saved it from getting an even lower rating than what I gave it. All right, Michael Bullock. We had fun during this tonight. A lot of fun. What else is there to say about this segment that we haven't said already?
Oh, man. Yes, this was indeed the segment of the night and the segment of the year. I mean, to me, the MVP of this segment was Mick Foley. I mean, the women, they were lashing out at each other, and Mick Foley was trying to bring them back to earth and tell them the importance of the Hell in a Cell and how dangerous it's going to be being inside that structure. And yet, these women, they know what they're getting themselves into, and then Mick just continued to lash out, and and he even got a little emotional during the whole thing, and they finally signed, and now it's officially on. And I'll be quite honest, I got goosebumps during that whole segment. I just enjoyed every single minute of it. How can you not enjoy it after what we saw from this segment? And of course, everybody knows that this match is going to be the main event of Hell in a Cell. And after what we saw tonight, I can only imagine what this match will be like this Sunday. Could we have a potential at maybe the women getting a 5-star classic? After what we saw here with the emotion build and the way this rivalry's been, I say it's a possibility that we could get a 5-star classic. Will it happen? We're just going to have to wait and find out. So, segment of the night, segment of the year. My expectations for this match is sky high, and it's going to be the fight of the night, without a shadow of a doubt. Florio, let's move on.
I hope you're right, Bullock. That's all I can say. I hope you're right. So,
what do you think? What do you think? A 5-star classic?
I don't know. We're going to have to wait and see. I hope so. That would be awesome to give the women a 5-star rating. We've only done that once before. Sasha and Bayley last year at Brooklyn. So let's see what happens. But I would love to see it. So that's Sunday night. Sasha Banks and Charlotte, Women's Championship, Hell in a Cell. History will be made. That's all there is to it. We'll get more into that this weekend. But right now, let's get into our next match. Cruiserweight action. The Brian Kendrick against Rich Swann. Winner of the match in 8 minutes and 35 seconds via an Oklahoma roll, Rich Swann. Rich Swann gets the win. Michael Bullock, how about this? We actually get some unpredictability for a change.
Yeah, well, first off, what was the time again, Florio?
8 minutes and 35 seconds.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it about 2 to maybe 2.25 stars as my rating for the match. I thought the match was good, and we had some unpredictability. Going into this match, we were both thinking, the Brian Kendrick's gonna win this match, but no, to our surprise, Richie Swann gets the win, and that's a big win there. And who knows, maybe he'll have a future shot at the WWE Cruiserweight Championship. So surprising outcome. 2 to 2.25 stars is my rating. So Florio, I give it to you.
2.5 stars for me, Bullock. Another solid but not overly spectacular outing from the Cruiserweights. They have done nothing to set them apart in the ring. They were just smaller guys working the same match as everyone else. It was also, while I like the unpredictability, I'll give you that. At the same time, though, it was also stupid to have Kendrick lose here. He is the only guy to beat Perkins in the WWE, and his momentum should have been kept in place. Commentary tried and failed to set the narrative that Kendrick was too focused on Perkins, but there was no reason to cut off Kendrick's momentum here. While I like the unpredictability aspect, I still think Kendrick should have gone over. You want to give the guy momentum going into a championship match on Sunday night. So fine outing, but not the most spectacular. So 2.5 stars for me. That's it for me. So then we had what was supposed to be a match with Braun Strowman and Sami Zayn. Match never happened. So let me see here. Zayn is a great babyface foil for Strowman, and again, is the right guy to have Strowman working longer matches with. Fans will care about Zayn, and Strowman can really work on his. Fans will care about Zayn, and Strowman can really work on his monster formula. The feud should really allow us to see if Strowman really has it. I also like that they didn't give away the match here. I think what's going to happen is they're probably going to have a match at a Hell in a Cell. That's all I can say. All right. Well, what we were supposed to have here, the much ballyhooed appearance of Brock Lesnar in his once-billed hometown of Minneapolis, Minnesota. Of course, he lives up in Canada now, as you all know. Brock Lesnar, Paul Heyman. We thought we were going to get a rebuttal to the Goldberg segment. No. This accomplished nothing. What a waste of money and time. They sent Heyman out there to pull some strings and have people chant while they literally said nothing of use to build this program. For as great as last week's Goldberg promo was, this was the exact opposite in quality. This was terrible. They tried to get heat on Lesnar in his home state, and it didn't work because creative is largely tone deaf. We thought this was going to be a great segment, but boy, howdy, were we wrong. We were wrong. Lackluster return promo from Heyman and Lesnar. I think they were hoping for a more even split between Goldberg and Lesnar chants in his hometown, but it was sort of a lukewarm reaction for Lesnar and a non-existent reaction for Goldberg, at least on television. That's really all there is to say on that. So, Michael Bullock, I'm going to give you the option. If you want to get into it, you can. If you don't want to get into it, that's okay too. But do you want to talk about this? Do you want to just move on or what?
Let's just move on. I mean, there's really nothing to say. I mean, I was expecting a whole lot more, but it was basically a case of, so that's it. So yeah, let's just move on.
And we're going to move on to the main event. Universal Champion Kevin Owens versus Chris Jericho versus Seth Rollins in a triple threat match. Winner of the match. Let me see here. Winner of the match in 9 minutes and 45 seconds. Seth Rollins with a double pin. He pinned both Owens and Jericho at the same time. With a little bit of a Tower of Doom spot. So Rollins wins in 9 minutes and 45 seconds. So, Michael Bullock, your thoughts on the main event?
Good main event, but it was a little disappointing to say the very least because it did end with a double roll up. So I'm going to give it about an even 2 stars. I mean, I could have given it more, but the roll up finish really took something away, and I get this feeling now with Seth Rollins pinning Kevin Owens. I mean, Kevin Owens is going over at Hell in a Cell on Sunday. There's no question about it. So I wanted to see some more action into this. But in the time we got, I mean, it was good for what it was, but it really left for something to desire. So 2 stars is my rating. Florio, I give it to you.
I'm actually going to give it 2.5 stars. This was fine overall when it comes to the work, but it felt repetitive towards the end. The fact that Rollins pinned both guys was horrible booking. This was the perfect time for them to work 3 to 4 minutes and then have Jericho and Owens beat the hell out of Rollins for a DQ. And then do the apron bomb spot to set the stage for Rollins as the injured underdog. The post-match was the best part. So that's really all there is to say on it. So 2.5 stars. Overall review, 4 out of 10 for me. This was not a good show, especially considering that it was the go-home show for Hell in a Cell. A lot of the important people lacked momentum. The tag champions lost. The top contender for the Cruiserweight title lost. The Universal Champion lost in what was essentially a handicap match. And the tone of the women's segment was off because the story structure was done poorly, even though I loved the segment. The Heyman and Lesnar segment was also not good. Hell in a Cell may very well deliver and be a good show, but this edition of Raw did nothing to make me excited about it. Overall, this was a poor effort to sell the pay-per-view. Period. And a quotation and a statement. Bullet, your thoughts on this go-home show tonight?
Three out of 10. Yeah, this is your go home show, and you give us this nonsense. I mean, other than some of the segments and good matches, everything else was just bleh. So nothing more to say. 3 out of 10. Florio, let's just get to your Tony's take.
Yeah, Tony's take. We're going to get into the last edition of Impact Wrestling. I want to tell you something. The Impact Wrestling we saw this past week, much better than this garbage show we saw tonight. Excuse me. But, yeah, it was this Impact show. Yeah, I got a lot more positive feedback regarding this. Because there were 4 matches altogether, and with the exception of one, the other 3 delivered. That's all I can say. We started off with an in-ring segment. Cody Rhodes, or as they just call him Cody down there. But he was in there. You know, he was basically plugging his main event championship match with Eddie Edwards for the World Heavyweight Championship. And then Eddie Edwards came out and then it was interrupted by Bobby Lashley and then Moose, and it led into Lashley and Moose. So this was really a 2-for-1 segment. Bobby Lashley went up against Moose in a number 1 contenders match for the World Heavyweight Championship. Winner would get to face the winner of the main event for the world title down the line. Winner of the match in 7 minutes and 40 seconds via pinfall was Bobby Lashley. As far as the segment goes, it was a fine but lacking segment. They said all the right things, but there was a lack of an emotional connection for the live crowd and me. Also, they desperately need to get away from these long talking segments to open the show. WWE is dead set on them, and I hate it. I keep saying that TNA can do small things that do not cost money to make their shows different, but they refuse to do so. I much rather would have seen some video packages, start with a quick X Division match, and then another video package to hype the 2 big matches. The Cody versus Eddie Edwards video that started the show, really good. I would have loved to see more of that, or a pre-taped interview with the guys staggered throughout the show to sell the matches. Lashley and Moose, as far as that's concerned, second best fight of the night. I'm going to give it a solid 3 stars. I liked how this played out. Lashley had to earn his way back to the title and looked good here. Also, they gave Moose a lot, and he was protected in the loss as he kicked out of the spear, and Lashley had to use his murder, death, kill finish to win. The match was good. but would have been better in front of a crowd that had a pulse. That's really all there is to say about it. So solid 3 stars for that. Eli Drake, Fact of Life segment. His guest was the grand champion, Aaron Rex. I do like the sit-down setup for this segment more than the in-ring because it breaks things up and doesn't feel as awkward. I was not a fan of the canned laugh track being used. Drake tends to get good enough reactions, and the fake tracks took away from what I felt was solid stuff from Drake and Rex, even with the abrupt ending. They were interrupted by Ethan Carter III and Jesse Goddard. As far as the second part of that segment goes, that was a better follow-up, and I like that Goddard was involved and not forgotten. So that's really all there is to say on that. Then we had a tag team championship match. It was the Broken Hardys going up against the Tribunal, Basile Baraka and Baron Dax. The winners of the match in 7 minutes and 50 seconds, and still your TNA World Tag Team Champions, the Broken Hardys, Broken Matt Hardy and Brother Nero. Third best fight of the night for me, 2 3/4 stars. That was a pretty good match with the crowd into the Broken Hardys and the match having a good flow. It was easily one of the Tribunal's better outings, and they were perfectly fine in their challenges of the week role. Very good. Then we had an in-ring segment, Maria Kanellis-Bennett, along with Laurel Van Ness and Allie. And Allie finally stands up to Maria after all the abuse that Maria had put her through. And then she was attacked by Laurel Van Ness. And then Maria said, I'm still in control of you, Allie, and you still work for me technically. So next week, you're gonna have a match against Laurel Van Ness. It was a good segment overall, as the crowd loves Allie and had been waiting for her to stand up for herself. Commentary for the first time in forever actually added something, explaining that while Maria lost her power over the knockouts, that she had control over Allie and could book the match. The Allie stuff works because it happened organically. The crowd decided that they loved her, and they are now playing off of it well. So good job. Then we had another match, the Miracle Mike Bennett going up against Mahabali Shera. Mike Bennett wins the match in 2 minutes and 55 seconds. No rating to an absolute dud. Worst fight of the night. It was a match. It was very boring. The right guy won, and we move on. And then we move on to the main event. For the TNA World Heavyweight Championship, champion Eddie Edwards defending against Cody, a.k.a. Cody Rhodes. His wife, Brandy, was in his corner. Winner of the match in 13 minutes and 30 seconds. And still TNA World Heavyweight Champion Eddie Edwards. Fight of the night, 3.5 stars. That was a really good main event. They worked at a great pace, and the crowd was invested in what they were doing. The tendency when you bring in a guy like Cody is to give him most of the match, and then the champion squeaks out a victory and looks not so good. But this was a very evenly worked match, with the champion catching the challenger to come away with the victory. That also allows for a rematch because Eddie didn't finish him. He was just smarter this time. The match was very good. The finish worked, and I enjoyed the hell out of it. Overall thoughts on this show? Solid 7 out of 10. Last week's show was a very good show overall. Eddie Edwards got to retain his title in a very good match. Lashley earned a rematch for his title in a good match. And the guys that lost, Moose and Cody Rhodes, weren't hurt in any way by their losses. They have some underneath programs rolling along smoothly, set matches for next week, and I felt that the show had a nice flow. The weakest thing on the show was Mike Bennett versus Mahabali Shera, and that wasn't so much bad it was completely boring. The show felt really easy to watch, moving along well, and having a good focus. So, most definitely a 7 out of 10 for this show. So, now we move on to what's on tap for this upcoming week's show. Which will, of course, air on Thursday. I want to make sure I have the spoilers for the right show. I want to make sure that I give you that what you can expect to see on this upcoming edition of Impact Wrestling coming up on Thursday. So bear with me for a moment as I pull up my notes on this. It will be a tag team match. Eli Drake and the grand champion Aaron Rex to go up against Jesse Goddard and Ethan Carter III. A promo segment with the Hardys. And then there was a segment with Grado with the Bromans, and there'll be a mixed tag team match. Cody and Brandy Rhodes against Mike Bennett and Maria Kanellis. That's what you're going to see there. And I think there's supposed to be the World Heavyweight Championship rematch with Lashley and Edwards. I just have to double check that before we wrap this up. Don't really have much of anything here. Just give me a moment here while this loads up. I believe there's also supposed to be a 6-man X Division match. Rockstar Spud and 2 partners going up against X Division champion DJZ, Mandrews, and Braxton Sutter in an X Division Gold match. I think we can expect that. EC3 and Jesse Goddard against Eli Drake and Aaron Rex. And I'm pretty sure those are the only matches that are on tap for this upcoming week. So that's really all I can report for right now as far as content for next week for this upcoming week's show. So check it out Thursday night, 8 o'clock on Pop Television. So that's going to put the bow on this edition of Ridiculously Raw. We want to thank you all so very much for tuning in. Michael Bullock, let's start it off with your shout outs, and then we'll put the bow on this night.
All right, of course, shout outs to all of our fans and viewers out there who continue to support our shows, whether it's this or of course the Cerebral Smack Talk or Strictly Sports College Football Thursday or NFL Friday. We definitely appreciate your support, and we thank you for tuning in here tonight. Of course, shout outs to, of course, our super fan Dee Dee Woodson, and of course the rest of the Woodson family, and of course to our other super fans, of course Matt Ward and Jason Hixenbaugh, and of course shout outs to all of our friends from our high school days: Al Brederson, Jimmy Alden, Rob Parsons, Eric Carrier, Tom Souza. Dee Dee Woodson's also the first lady of the Wrestling Forum. Let's not forget about that. And of course, also to Megan Silva, and of course, the first lady of Strictly Sports, Kaiser Butler, to Derek Ferreira, and of course, to Michael Fletch himself, and of course, a special shout out, a happy 35th wedding anniversary to my parents. Of course, and of course, they actually celebrated it this weekend when they were in Foxwoods. They went to the Hard Rock Cafe and then spent the night there. And of course, their actual anniversary, of course, was today. And me and my sister, we took them out for dinner at Chili's, and
Nice.
And they certainly enjoyed it. So happy anniversary, Mom and Dad, and I love you guys so much. So
Yes, Lord. Yes, Lord.
Yes. So that's gonna do it for me. So until tomorrow night, if so, for the Cerebral Smack Talk, or if I'm not on until Strictly Sports College Football Thursday, this is the Phenom Mike Bullock saying thank you all so very much for tuning in. Of course, you know the routine. Thumbs up. Talk to you later. Yeah. Throwing up Fortune 4 style. Bye for now. And of course, enjoy the rest of your night, everybody. So, Florio, take us home.
Yes, will do indeed, Bullock. Special shout out to all of our tremendous fans and viewers out there who continue to make our shows, who continue to watch our shows. We appreciate it as always. You are the best fans in the world for those of you who do. Special shout out to the First Lady of the Wrestling Forum, Dee Dee Woodson, Kevin Woodson, the entire Woodson family. Very special shout out to Matt Ward, who I know has got to be,
Yeah, he's got to be excited.
all right. So, yeah, I was just wrapping up with my shout outs there. We definitely want to congratulate Matt Ward for his Chicago Cubs going to the World Series and everything else. So special shout out to him. Of course, other shout outs are Jason Hicksonbaugh, of course, Daniel Latrell from the UK, our First Ladies, Megan Silva, Kaiser Butler, and Lexi Calloway, our other crew members, Tommy Souza, Eric Carrier, Jimmy Alden, Albert and Rob Parsons, and of course, Derek Ferreira, and as well as Michael Fletcher, who's going to be on the show tonight. So, that's going to do it for our shout outs. I'll save the rest of mine for Friday night. Real quick, tomorrow night's Cerebral Smack Talk. MF will be back for that. He'll be hosting that. We'll run down SmackDown Live and his Mikey's Mindset on whatever else he has. ROH, Lucha Underground, RWA. Thursday night, College Football Thursday. Headlined by Clemson and Florida State. We'll get into that. And then Friday night, NFL Friday. Some great matchups. Packers, Falcons, Patriots, and Bills. Just a couple of the great matchups we'll get into on Friday. And then sometime this weekend, we'll have the Hell in a Cell preview edition of this show. I know Bullock's got a long night ahead of him. A very special Halloween dance that's going down. We don't know what time we'll do that. We'll hammer out the details and get back to you folks on that. And then Sunday night, the recap. I'll be hosting that since Hell in a Cell is a Raw exclusive event after all. So that will put the bow on this edition of Ridiculously Raw. We want to thank you all so very much for tuning in. So until tomorrow night for the Cerebral Smack Talk, it's Anthony Floyer here for Michael Bullock, and in spirit, Michael Fletcher, Dee Dee Woodson, and Derek Ferreira. You know the routine, everybody. Thumbs up. Talk to you later. Yeah, throw it up Fortune 4 style. Bye for now, my friends. God bless. Be good to each other. And until the Cerebral Smack Talk tomorrow night, you've been watching Ridiculously Raw right here on the Tone 25 and YouTube.com. And remember, no matter what anyone tells you, wrestling is indeed actually real. Good night, everybody.